Hello, again. I'm asking to what if Yoda lied about going to Kashyyyk? Now remember, Yoda went to Kashyyyk with the Wookiees. But I'm asking to what if he lied about going to Kashyyyk? Let's see what happens. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And I'll put Star Wars Quiz channel in the description below, so you can check out the original video for yourself. So let's see what happens if Yoda lied.
What if Yoda had lied about going to Kashyyyk and was instead present within the Jedi Temple as Palpatine revealed his Sith identity to Anakin? How would that change things? Let's find out. So in this timeline, everything would be the same as in the original timeline until Ki-Adi-Mundi mentions the drone attack on the Wookiees. In the original timeline, soon after finding out about this, Yoda went to Kashyyyk, the Wookiee homeworld. But in this new timeline, Yoda would go to Kashyyyk, but once there, the Grand Master would put Luminara and Dooley, who was also there, in charge of everything, and having done so, Yoda would tell Luminara that he is going back to Coruscant, and to keep that a secret from the clones and everyone else. And Master Luminara would do so. She would tell all those who asked that Master Yoda is in a deep Jedi battle meditation, and that he is not to be disturbed. So side note, battle meditation was a force ability that was set to boost the morale, stamina, and overall battle prowess of an individual's allies, while simultaneously reducing their enemies' combat effectiveness by eroding their will to fight. But that is not what Yoda was doing. Instead, not long after he left, Yoda discreetly made his way back to Coruscant and into the Jedi Temple. And only one person, other than Luminara, was aware of this, and that was Mace Windu. And as for why Yoda does this, well, Yoda's secretive return to Coruscant was born from a strategic insight he shared with Mace Windu, that Darth Sidious could be manipulating the war's events, including dispersing Jedi leaders across the galaxy to weaken their collective strength and oversight. Yoda further concluded in this timeline that the Sith Lord's plan involved keeping the Jedi Masters, especially those capable of thwarting him, away from the galactic capital and the Jedi Temple. And so, Master Yoda's ostensible mission to Kashyyyk, followed by a covert return to Coruscant, was in a calculated effort to remain under Sidious's radar. This maneuver was aimed at ensuring Yoda could counteract Sidious directly from the heart of the Republic, protect the Jedi Temple if need be, and be in a position to respond rapidly to any threat Sidious may pose. And not long after his return to Coruscant, Yoda would feel he made the right decision, and that is because of Palpatine revealing himself as Darth Sidious to Anakin. After this revelation, just like in the original timeline, Anakin would rush to the temple and tell Mace Windu that Palpatine is Sidious. But unlike in the original timeline, here, Mace would not immediately rush to arrest Palpatine. Instead, Master Windu would take Anakin into a section of the Jedi archives, and Anakin, not aware of why Master Windu is doing this, followed him. And as Master Windu guided him deeper into the restricted section of the archives, the dim lights of the halls revealed the serene figure of Master Yoda, deep in meditation. Anakin's surprise was evident. The young Jedi's eyes widened, trying to process Yoda's presence inside the temple. And then, without allowing anyone a moment to speak, Windu's voice cut through the silence. Master Yoda, Anakin has brought troubling news. The Sith Lord we've been looking for, it's Palpatine. Hearing this, Yoda's eyes opened, a deep, thoughtful gaze settling on Anakin. Anakin, true this is? Master Yoda asked, his voice calm but carrying an underlying urgency. And in response, Anakin repeated what he had told Windu, detailing his encounter with Palpatine and the Sith Lord's offer of dark knowledge. The room they were in hung heavy with the gravity of Anakin's words. Windu, his face etched with resolve and a hint of anger, turned to Yoda. Master, we must act now. The threat posed by the Sith looms over the Republic. We cannot delay in capturing or destroying Sidious. Yoda closed his eyes for a moment, his mind racing through the Force, sensing the shifts and flows of power through the galaxy. Your desire to stop Sidious, strong it is, Master Windu, but consider we must. The timing of his revelation. Sidious has played this game for years, hiding in plain sight, manipulating events and people to his will. Yoda paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Defeated Grievous, Master Obi-Wan has, signaling the war's turning tide. Sidious revealing himself now. No coincidence this is. It is the culmination of a plan 1,000 years in the making. To act rashly is to play into Sidious's hands. Hearing this, Windu's expression showed his internal struggle. The urgency to act, battling with the wisdom of caution. "What do you propose we do, Master Yoda?" Mace finally asked.
Take your
Yoda met
time.
Windu's gaze, his own filled with a deep, unwavering resolve. "Act, we must not. Not until a plan we have, Master Windu. Rush into a trap, we will not." Mace Windu, taking a moment to absorb Yoda's wisdom, finally nodded in agreement. "Master Yoda, your insight guides us, as always. We will heed your advice and act with caution." Shifting his attention to Anakin at this point, Yoda said the following. "Distance from Chancellor Palpatine, you must remain. Mislead you, he aims to. Strong in the Force, you are, yet anyone can be vulnerable to manipulation. When fear clouds their judgment, trust him you must not, Anakin." And in response to this, Anakin didn't say anything. Instead, he nodded to Master Yoda. And having said this, Yoda again looked at Master Windu. "Keep an eye on the Chosen One, Master Windu." This is what the expression on Yoda's face was trying to tell Master Windu, one that Windu quickly recognized. But anyways, in this timeline, due to Yoda being present on Coruscant, Mace decided to not immediately try and arrest Palpatine, significantly altering the course of events. Its main impact being that Palpatine was prevented from triggering Order 66, as the Jedi had not openly moved against him, so there was no reason to accuse the Jedi of. Anyways, soon after all this, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ahsoka Tano would return to Coruscant. Obi-Wan's victory over General Grievous and Ahsoka's success on Mandalore, where she captured Maul, added to the strength of the Jedi's presence on the capital. And a short while after his arrival on the capital, Obi-Wan also met with Yoda and Mace in secret, during which they discussed the situation of Palpatine being Sidious and Anakin. Among many other things, Yoda also discussed with Obi-Wan Anakin's possible vulnerability to Palpatine's manipulations. "Speak with Anakin, you must, Obi-Wan. Suspect I do that deeply personal, Palpatine's influence on Emmaus. Fear for someone close to him, young Skywalker harbors," Yoda expressed, his voice imbued with a mixture of wisdom and concern. Also, side note, one of the reasons why Yoda would know that Anakin fears for someone close to him would be because Anakin had confessed to Yoda that he's had premonitions of someone close to him suffering. So by this point in this new timeline, Yoda would suspect that Anakin's fear for this person close to him might be what Palpatine is using to manipulate Skywalker. And taking Yoda's counsel to heart, Obi-Wan sought out Anakin for a private conversation. The trust and respect between them allowed Anakin to open up about his encounter with Palpatine. He confirmed to his old master that Palpatine was indeed Sidious, and also revealed the Sith Lord's promise, a path to prevent a death he foresaw. Although Anakin only revealed about his premonition once Obi-Wan brought up Anakin's meeting with Yoda, where Anakin told Yoda of his premonitions. And Obi-Wan, connecting the dots, understood that Padme was the heart of Anakin's fears, a realization that Anakin did not deny. Also, another reason why Anakin decided to open up to Obi-Wan, especially after Yoda's advice to distance himself from Palpatine, was in the hopes that Master Obi-Wan Kenobi could offer another way to potentially save Padme. Anakin's desperation was evident, and it stemmed from his exclusion from the restricted section of the Jedi Archives, a privilege reserved for Masters, a title he had been denied. This denial had fueled his resentment and pushed him towards Palpatine in the original timeline. However, with Obi-Wan present and seemingly willing to help, Anakin saw a new possibility in this timeline. A possibility that Obi-Wan might be his way of finding the knowledge on how to save someone from death. And so, Anakin asked Obi-Wan if he could go into the restricted section and find the knowledge on how Anakin could keep his visions from becoming a reality. And Obi-Wan, understanding the weight of what was at stake, agreed to delve into the restricted section to find the knowledge that Anakin seeks. Obi-Wan does this because he wanted to help Anakin, and beyond that, Obi-Wan realized that Anakin's fear of losing Padme was precisely what Palpatine had exploited to ensnare Anakin. Master Yoda was right, Obi-Wan told himself. And then later, armed with this new insight from Anakin, Obi-Wan reported back to Yoda and Mace Windu. He told them that Anakin is worried about losing Padme. Neither Yoda nor Mace was even a least bit surprised that Padme was the person Anakin was afraid of losing, and they didn't dwell on that topic. Instead, they quickly pieced together that Palpatine's plan on making Anakin join him hinged on exploiting Anakin's fear for Padme's life. And because of this, to stop that from happening, Yoda made a decision. Access to the restricted section of the archives. Grant, we will to Anakin. Remove, we must, any reason for him to seek Palpatine's counsel. As Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Mace Windu discussed the delicate situation within the confines of the Jedi Archives, a different kind of revelation was about to reach Anakin. His comlink buzzed urgently. The signal coming from none other than his former apprentice, Ahsoka Tano. Eager and anxious, Anakin quickly moved to meet her, sensing the urgency in her call. And upon their meeting, Ahsoka wasted no time, her expression grave. Anakin, there's something you need to know. Maul, he said something on Mandalore before we captured him. He spoke of you, said that you're being manipulated to become Sidious's apprentice. Anakin's reaction to this was more subdued than Ahsoka had anticipated. There was no shock or disbelief, only a resigned understanding. And seeing this, Ahsoka's eyes narrowed, sensing the depth of Anakin's turmoil. You already know, don't you? She asked, a hint of disbelief in her voice. Anakin nodded, a mixture of relief and sorrow in his gaze. The Sith Lord we've been looking for, Ahsoka, it's Palpatine. Maul wasn't lying. Palpatine told me himself. Ahsoka, taken aback, tried to process the revelation. Anakin, what are we going to do? What's the council doing? Are they going to arrest him? Ahsoka asked, extremely concerned now that she knows that the leader of the Republic was Sidious all along. Only Master Windu, Obi-Wan, Master Yoda and you know of this, Ahsoka. For the time being, we can't do anything. Or we will be playing right into his hands. Or that is what Master Yoda believes, Anakin said, mirroring what Yoda told him. Tell no one of this, Ahsoka. We don't know what he has planned. We can't just do nothing, Anakin, Ahsoka stated. Anakin's response was heavy, weighed down by his fears and uncertainties. I don't know anymore, Ahsoka. I'm just as lost as you are, he admitted, his vulnerability more apparent than ever. A clear indication of his deep-seated fears of losing his wife. The two then talked further, but neither could think of a way to deal with Palpatine. And soon after, Ahsoka received a transmission asking her to oversee Maul's transfer to a secure facility. And though Ahsoka wanted to stay with Anakin insisted that she help the clones. He does that because Anakin wanted her to rejoin the Order, and also because he didn't want her acting like she knew something she shouldn't, to not make her a target of Sidious, who Anakin was afraid might be listening somehow. And as she left, a multitude of concerns clouded Ahsoka's mind, particularly about Anakin's state of mind and the dark path that seemed to lie before them all. But then, after Ahsoka had left, Obi-Wan found Anakin, carrying with him a sliver of hope that might pierce the looming shadow over his friend. Anakin, he began, the Council has decided you will be granted full access to the entirety of the archives. Whatever it is that you're seeking, whatever knowledge you need, if it exists, is in the archives, and we will find it together, Obi-Wan said, his tone one of support. And this news brought a visible change over Anakin. His eyes, which had been clouded with doubt and fear, now shimmered with a renewed vigor and hope. I'm very grateful, Obi-Wan. Thank you, he said, almost breathlessly, the weight of countless burdens beginning to lift from his shoulders. And then, immediately upon receiving this news, along with Obi-Wan, Anakin delved into the ancient texts and holocrons contained within the Jedi archives. In particular, Anakin's focus was directed towards the healing arts, specifically knowledge on saving someone's life from the grip of death. And later that night, as Anakin and Obi-Wan were busy in the archives, the Jedi Council convened, a sense of urgency and gravity pervading the air as they gathered to discuss the unfolding crisis. All members of the Council, as the meeting began, were made aware of the dire situation. Chancellor Palpatine was Darth Sidious. This revelation, brought forth by Master Yoda, echoed ominously through the chamber. Also, by this point, Yoda would see that he didn't need to keep his presence on Coruscant a secret from the members of the High Council. He could trust them. Yoda knew this. And seeing as how he was the Grand Master of the Order, Yoda felt it necessary that he himself present this matter before the Council. It was the biggest threat the Order had faced in 1,000 years, after all. When Skywalker was told by Palpatine himself, we learned of this, Yoda began, his voice carrying a weight of sorrow and responsibility, long as Palpatine sought to bring Anakin to his side, manipulating the Chosen One, in hopes of altering the prophecy. He might be. Ki-Adi-Mundi, visibly shaken, questioned why Palpatine would reveal himself to Anakin. Anakin was a Jedi, and revealing yourself as a Sith Lord to get a Jedi on your side wasn't a good strategy. This was Ki-Adi-Mundi's reasoning here. And Yoda, expressing a rare moment of self-disappointment, admitted their oversight. Clouded by darkness, our vision has been. Control over Anakin, Palpatine seeks to use him against the Order. Much fear there is in young Skywalker. Tried to use that against him, Sidious did. Having heard this, the Council's attention then turned to Anakin's whereabouts. Yoda assured them that Skywalker was within the temple, though he offered no further details. keeping Anakin's pursuit in the archives a guarded matter. Yoda then called upon Ahsoka Tano to share her insights gained from Darth Maul. And Ahsoka, stepping forward, recounted Maul's warnings that Sidious had already laid claim to the Senate and that the Republic was on the verge of total domination. And then, upon Yoda asking if that is all she learned, Ahsoka, realizing how the Council already knows of Palpatine having made Anakin a target, revealed to the Council of Maul's claim that Sidious had been manipulating Anakin to become his apprentice, and that Maul orchestrated the war on Mandalore with the sole purpose of drawing Anakin there to kill him, so that he doesn't become Sidious's apprentice. This revelation deepened the Council's concern, prompting Yoda to acknowledge their blindness to the machinations that had unfolded right before them. Yoda then thanked Ahsoka and continued, "Our next action is wisely, we must decide, for they will determine the future of the galaxy, the Republic, and the Jedi Order itself." Yoda solemnly declared. The Council pondered their course, wary of acting rashly and fulfilling his Sith plan, centuries in the making. They then wondered how exactly Sidious plans on taking over the Republic and destroying the Jedi. And it was then that Master Windu, who had earlier on sensed a plot to destroy the Jedi, brought up the topic of Clone Trooper CT-5555 or Fives. So side note, in case you didn't know, Fives was a clone who had figured out that the inhibitor chips inside the heads of every single clone was designed to make them turn against the Jedi, and that Palpatine was somehow involved. But when Fives tried to warn Anakin, Anakin did not believe it. But anyways, in this timeline, Mace Windu brings up Fives, and Fives' claims about a conspiracy involving the Chancellor and the potential for the chips to turn the clones against the Jedi now seemed chillingly relevant. And having heard this, Yoda, recognizing the gravity of Windu's insight, requested that Master Windu investigate the matter by visiting Kamino. And Windu, of course, agreed. And then, as the council meeting went on, Shakti raised a question about the aftermath of the war, wondering whether Palpatine would now be forced to relinquish his emergency powers. And to this, Yoda summarized that Palpatine, since he quite possibly orchestrated Grievous's actions, could easily manipulate the war by introducing someone to replace Grievous, thereby keeping the war going on, justifying him holding on to his emergency powers. Sidious's plan is as of yet not complete, and so hope remains, Yoda concluded, urging caution and patience. Act we must not until the path is clear. Even the most cautious beings are prone to error, Yoda advised, his eyes reflecting the depth of his experience, overconfidence and anger. Weaknesses of the Sith they are. Wait we must for Sidious to reveal his mistake, and exploit it we will. This counsel set the tone for the Jedi's approach, a vigilance for the opportunity that would inevitably arise from Sidious's arrogance or oversight. In the days following this pivotal council meeting, the galaxy remained in turmoil. Contrary to the expectations of a swift conclusion to the Clone Wars following General Grievous's demise, the conflict persisted. From the shadows, Darth Sidious orchestrated the movements of the Separatist leaders, ensuring the war raged on, thereby justifying his retention of emergency powers. And as a result, the galaxy's hope for peace was once again dashed as battles flared across numerous systems. Meanwhile, Mace Windu journeyed to Kamino, seeking answers about the true purpose of the Clone Troopers' inhibitor chips. He then met with Lama Su, the Prime Minister of Kamino. The meeting was cordial, but Lama Su maintained that the chips ensured obedience among the clones, a safeguard against insubordination. However, Mace, sensing evasion, employed the Force to coax the truth from Lama Su. Under the sway of the Force, Lama Su revealed that the chips were designed to target rogue Jedi, as instructed by the Jedi Tyrannus. So side note, Tyrannus, Count Dooku, was the person who produced and gave the inhibitor chips to the Kaminoans to have them placed into the clones, telling them that the chips were in place to allow the clones to go after Jedi who went rogue. But the thing is, the Kaminoans always believed Dooku to be just another Jedi. They never knew that the inhibitor chips were meant to destroy the Jedi. So that is why, even under the persuasion of the Force, Lama Su maintains that the chips were simply there to allow the clones to go after rogue Jedi. This revelation that Tyrannus or Dooku was the person who supplied the chips confirmed Mace's worst fears. The Kaminoans had also been manipulated by Sidious through Dooku. Fives was right. The clones, the Republic's protectors, were also its potential executioners, unbeknownst to the Kaminoans. With this knowledge, Mace returned to Coruscant, burdened with the realization that Palpatine quite possibly wielded the power to decimate the Jedi Order at a moment's notice. If Palpatine gave the order, the clones would be compelled to follow through with it. Count Dooku had ensured of that. Amidst these dire developments, Anakin Skywalker was ensconced within the Jedi archives, delving into ancient texts in search of a way to thwart the death he had foreseen for Padme. But one day, his research was interrupted by an urgent message from C-3PO, bearing the news that Padme had gone into labor. Hearing this, Anakin immediately rushed to the hospital, where he was met with a scene that would forever alter his course. Padme, alive and well, cradling their newborn twins, Luke and Leia. Seeing this, the fear that had gnawed at Anakin's heart dissipated. Palpatine's manipulations were laid bare. The future was not certain, and now it had changed. Without the Sith Lord's intervention, Padme had survived childbirth, invalidating Sidious's claims that only through him can Anakin gain the power to save his wife. Then, with the immediate threat to Padme and their children averted, Anakin implored her to leave for Naboo, away from the increasingly dangerous climate of Coruscant. And though reluctant, Padme eventually acquiesced to Anakin's insistence, understanding the gravity of his concern without knowing its full extent. And then, with his family now presumably safe on Naboo, Anakin's resolve hardened. Obi-Wan was particularly happy for Anakin, both at Padme having loved and with Anakin now being fully convinced that Palpatine was trying to manipulate him. But without talking about that much, Anakin rejoined the Jedi, prepared to confront the looming threat of Darth Sidious. In the shadowed confines of the Jedi Temple, a sense of foreboding had settled among the Jedi Council. They were like marionettes who, upon glimpsing the strings by which they were manipulated, found themselves without means to cut those binds. The revelation of Sidious's identity and the complexities of their predicament had left them in a quagmire of uncertainty and strategic paralysis. It was within this atmosphere that Yoda called for another council meeting, this time with Obi-Wan and Anakin
Jedi
included. Upon entering, Anakin noticed Yoda in deep conversation with Ahsoka Tano. Yoda revealed that he had been discussing with Ahsoka the potential for Mandalorian support to her ally, Bo-Katan Kryze, who had by this point been named the Regent of Mandalore following Maul's capture, for which Ahsoka and the Republic lent heavy aid. Ahsoka then expressed her intention to depart from Mandalore immediately to consult with Bo-Katan to ask for her support. And having heard this, Anakin, with a nod, urged her to stay safe, to which she responded with, "You too, Anakin," her tone laden with an unspoken worry that hinted at deeper concerns for Anakin's well-being and the ominous path that lay ahead. The meeting then shifted focus to the dilemma of confronting Palpatine. Yoda pondered aloud the feasibility of a legal recourse against the Chancellor, suggesting the possibility of Darth Maul's testimony, who at this point is in a Republic prison, under tight security. But Mace Windu raised doubts about the effectiveness of such a strategy, suspecting that Palpatine could easily dismiss Maul's claims as the ravings of a madman, potentially even twisting the narrative to paint the Jedi as traitors attempting to frame Palpatine. Agreeing with Mace's assessment, Yoda conceded that direct action against Palpatine could backfire disastrously, potentially giving Palpatine the legal right to order the clones to turn on the Jedi, which by this point in the story, the Council knows Palpatine can do because of Mace's investigation on Kamino. Yoda then floated a last resort plan, confronting Palpatine by himself, with the Council claiming that Yoda had gone rogue. Mace Windu immediately rejected the idea of Yoda facing Palpatine alone, insisting on joining the Grandmaster. And then Obi-Wan interjected, cautioning that even this drastic measure could lead Palpatine to brand the entire Jedi Order as rogue, thus justifying the activation of the inhibitor chips against the Order. The Council's conversation then spiraled into a circle of debate of potential actions and their respective consequences, each path seemingly leading to greater peril. In the end, Yoda somberly acknowledged their deadlock. And when the meeting adjourned without a clear resolution, Anakin's mind dwelled on Ahsoka's parting words. "You too, Anakin." These words of Ahsoka echoed in Anakin's mind, a phrase so simple yet fraught with implication. There was a depth to her concern, a premonition of danger that Anakin couldn't shake. Soon after arriving on Mandalore, Ahsoka Tano found herself in the regal presence of Bo-Katan Kryze. And without wasting much time on pleasantries, Ahsoka soon relayed Master Yoda's proposition to Bo-Katan. With caution, mindful of the potential risks to Mandalore should their involvement be traced back to them. Initially, Bo-Katan hesitated, not wanting to get involved with the Republic's business. However, reassured by Ahsoka that the Jedi would ensure Mandalore's safety and anonymity, and recalling the crucial role the Republic and Ahsoka herself played in liberating Mandalore from Maul's tyranny, Bo-Katan finally agreed to lend her support. However, Bo-Katan did warn that preparations for meeting Yoda's plan would take some time, which Ahsoka agreed to, following which she promptly communicated Bo-Katan's agreement to Master Yoda, who expressed readiness to proceed. "Be prepared, we must," Yoda affirmed, sensing that the unfolding Mandalorian strategy might offer the only viable path to confronting Sidious. Yoda then briefs the Jedi Council on this development, emphasizing the need for urgent action against Sidious. Yoda told the Council, in somewhat of an opposition to his earlier belief that if they simply sat and waited for the opportune moment, the moment might never come, and that Sidious might destroy them all, and take control over the Republic with the cause by his side. The Council, including Anakin, who was present, was a bit puzzled by this statement from Yoda, who, up until recently, had preached caution. But despite this, despite the lingering doubts and concerns, the Council concurred that passivity was no longer an option. They could not simply stand by as Sidious's shadow grew over the Republic. They fully trusted Master Yoda. The meeting went on for a little longer, but soon was dispersed. Then, as the members of the council got up to leave, Yoda said the following: "Masters Windu, Shakti, and Fisto." A word, and having heard this, the masters stopped and joined Yoda in a more private meeting. Obi-Wan and Anakin and the other masters were a bit puzzled by this, but figured that the Grand Master must have had his reasons. And then, a short while later, sooner than she said it would take, Bo-Katar's Night Owls, led by Ursa Wren, positioned themselves strategically on Coruscant. Their arrival on Coruscant concealed by a cloaked ship that awaited all detection. And once they were in place and their plans in motion, Ursa Wren contacted Master Yoda directly, telling him that they were ready. And with the Mandalorians in place, Yoda, along with Master Windu, Shakti, and Kit Fisto, prepared for the confrontation with Palpatine. The Council's reservations persisted, yet Yoda's conviction that this course was the best hope for ending Sidious's reign swayed them. And when Obi-Wan and Anakin offered to join the perilous mission, Yoda expressly forbade it, and then he went on to outline a scenario in which, should the Masters fail to destroy Sidious, Anakin's unparalleled reputation as the hero of the Clone Wars would be indispensable in rallying the Republic's support, and that all would truly be portrayed as a rogue action by the Jedi Council. Yoda told Anakin that in such a scenario, it would fall upon Anakin and Obi-Wan, who was also seen in a good light by the Republic, to explain to the galaxy and the Senate that Yoda and the other Masters had gone rogue and were not acting with the consent of the remaining Masters or the rest of the Council. And Anakin, recognizing the strategic merit in Yoda's plan, acquiesced. And then, as the appointed Jedi Masters departed for Palpatine's office under the cover of night, Anakin and Obi-Wan retreated to the Council chamber, their conversation meandering through the possible outcomes and the profound implications of their actions. But then their conversation was abruptly interrupted by a transmission from Ahsoka Tano. It had been a while since Ahsoka departed from Mandalore on Yoda's behest, and her silence since then had been a source of growing concern for Anakin. And the moment he accepted Ahsoka's transmission, Ahsoka's holographic figure materialized, her expression one of concern. "Anakin, where are you? Are you safe?" she inquired immediately, her tone carrying an underlying tension that Anakin found disconcerting. "I'm in the council chamber with Obi-Wan, Ahsoka. What's happening?" "I sense that something is troubling you heavily," Anakin replied, his confusion apparent. Ahsoka paused, a flicker of hesitation crossing her features. "I'll explain everything once I'm back, Anakin," she assured him, then added with a seriousness that bordered on the foreboding, "Just let Master Yoda do what he believes is necessary, Anakin. Do not interfere." Anakin's brow furrowed in confusion at her cryptic message. "What do you mean, Ahsoka? What's going on?" he pressed. But she was firm in her resolve. "I'll be back soon, Anakin. We'll talk then," Ahsoka stated before ending the transmission abruptly, leaving Anakin and Obi-Wan enveloped in a deepening mystery concerning Yoda's plan and Ahsoka's ominous warning. Meanwhile, the Jedi Masters, tasked with confronting Chancellor Palpatine, advanced through the Republic Executive Building, which is where Palpatine's office and official residence was located. The corridors were eerily calm, usual hustle of political discourse and maneuvering silenced by the lateness of the hour. The whole environment was calm. In the skies above the building, various proposals of crafts like taxis, personal shuttles, and particularly a slow trash collection vehicle labeled the Nebula Sweep 9 all calmly flew along the sky lanes. But meanwhile, within Palpatine's office, things were anything but calm. The Sith Lord sensed an encroaching sense of danger, a foreboding feeling that intensified with the Jedi's approach. Palpatine had of course known that the Jedi are coming for him, both through the security recordings and through the Force. And immediately upon noticing that the Jedi were approaching him, Palpatine quickly turned off the cameras within his own office, not wanting the Republic to see the true nature of what was about to happen. Palpatine wanted complete control over the narrative that would follow on what exactly went down in his office before Order 66 was executed. And so, as the dark side stirred within him with an impending sense of danger, Palpatine did not fear it, but instead he became overcome with anticipation for the impending showdown. Palpatine readied himself for confrontation, relishing at the opportunity to finally unleash his plan in full. He will soon dispatch of the Jedi and execute Order 66. The end of the Jedi Order was near, Palpatine told himself. Also, in regards to his plans with Anakin, Palpatine recognized that the breach of trust with the Chosen One had necessitated a change in strategy. And so, Palpatine decided that instead of making Anakin his apprentice, he would capture Anakin, keep him prisoner, and eventually, after having discovered the Sith technique of essence transfer, he would transfer his spirit into Anakin's body, thereby becoming the Chosen One. The Chosen One can destroy the Sith if the Sith became the Chosen One, Palpatine told himself. But Palpatine did not dwell on that line of thinking for too long, because at that moment he realized that Master Yoda was with the Jedi. So even by this point, only the Jedi Council know that Yoda was not on Kashyyyk. So this would be surprising to Palpatine. But despite the unexpected inclusion of Master Yoda, Palpatine's resolve remained unshaken. Yoda's presence changes nothing, he assured himself, his confidence bolstered by the dark energies swirling around him. And Palpatine also concluded that Yoda's presence was the reason he felt an increased sense of danger as the Jedi made their approach. I will address the Jedi threat directly. Should the need arise, I can always retreat and command the execution of Order 66 elsewhere. The Force is mine to wield, Palpatine told himself, a dark echo of assurance resonating within the confines of his mind. And meanwhile, outside the Chancellor's office, the tension among the Jedi were palpable. In the fleeting moments before they confronted their adversary, Master Yoda and Mace shared a brief exchange. Their voices low, charged with the gravity of their mission. Mace, ready yourself, you must. Underestimate Sidious, we cannot, Yoda advised, his gaze steady and commanding. Master Windu nodded, the resolve in his eyes mirroring that of Yoda's. We'll end this threat, Master Yoda. For the Republic, for democracy, and for the Order, he responded. And at that very moment, a discreet signal buzzed on Yoda's comlink. A message from the Mandalorian Night Owls, indicating that they are awaiting Yoda's signal. Very well, Yoda said. The devices glowed dimming as the communication ended. And then, with a collective sense of purpose, the Jedi approached Chancellor Palpatine's office. The door then slid open silently, a prelude to the storm that was about to unfold. The Jedi then stepped inside, their silhouettes a testament to their determination and their roles as the last bastions against the darkening tide. And Palpatine, sensing their entrance, turned to face them, a veneer of cordiality masking his true nature. Master Yoda, I wasn't aware you were back on Coruscant. To what do I owe the pleasure of this unexpected visit? He inquired, his voice dripping with feigned ignorance and a hint of underlying malice. Mace Windu then stepped forward, his voice firm and devoid of any hesitation. Chancellor Palpatine, under the authority of the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order, you are being placed under arrest for suspicion of treason against the Republic and for conspiring with the Sith. A flicker of amusement crossed Palpatine's features before quickly being replaced by a mask of indignation. Treason, Master Jedi? You are mistaken, surely there has been some misunderstanding. He countered smoothly, though his eyes gleamed with an anticipation for the confrontation to come. And as this was happening, as Mace Windu was speaking with Palpatine, Master Yoda, with a solemn determination etched into his ancient features,
Shopify helps you sell at every stage of your business. Sell it online,
Live
take it in person,
ads.
and go big, like 1 million orders big. Whatever your stage, businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up today at shopify.com/YouTube audio.
subtly pressed a button on his wrist communicator, which was the signal that the Night Owls were waiting for. Mace Windu's accusations against Palpatine hung heavily in the air, an unspoken acknowledgement of the point of no return they had reached. Yoda then took a deliberate step forward, igniting his green lightsaber and pointing it directly at Palpatine. Surrender you must, Sidious, Yoda declared, his voice steady and unwavering. Palpatine's response was a scoff, his expression morphing into one of mock outrage. It's treason, then, Sidious said, following which he got up and took out his own saber, his crimson blade igniting with a malevolent hiss. But then, as Sidious prepared to lunge at the Jedi, a shadow of realization passed over him. Suddenly, he saw that the imminent danger that he's been sensing for a while was not solely from the Jedi before him. It was something else. something he had failed to notice. So moments prior to Sidious taking out his lightsaber, an unexpected and seemingly mundane event unfolded outside the Republic Executive Building. The Nebula Sweep 9, a standard repulsor lift trash vehicle that was flying through the skylines near the building, began to veer unexpectedly off its designated course. Observers might have assumed a simple navigational error, or perhaps a malfunctioning in its droid pilot, a result of the waste management company cutting corners to save costs. Some might have even speculated it was a prank orchestrated by a daring holotuber seeking to make a splash in the galaxy's vast entertainment sphere. The idea of the Nebula Sweep's crash compartment opening as a bizarre stunt to scatter garbage or the executive building would have been just the kind of spectacle to gain instant traction on the holonet. However, the reality of the situation was far from humorous, because soon the Nebula Sweep 9 started making its way towards the office of the Supreme Chancellor. And noticing this, several security crafts moved to intercept the Nebula Sweep. And they did. They approached the trash vehicle with the intention of stopping it, but right as they did so, the trash compartment of the Nebula Sweep opened and nothing came out. Nothing that any sensors could pick up. Because what had actually happened was that as soon as the Nebula Sweep opened, a fully cloaked, almost invisible craft, which was concealed within the trash compartment of the Nebula Sweep, left the trash vehicle, and it started making its way towards the window of Chancellor Palpatine's office. But as for what exactly was within this fully cloaked craft that was now heading towards Palpatine, well, it was enough seismic charges to almost take down a Star Destroyer. This was why the Nebula Sweep was moving somewhat slow through the skylines, because of the sheer weight of these seismic charges. And this was also the reason why the cloaked craft couldn't carry the charges from its origin point to its destination entirely by itself. The charges were too heavy, and the specially designed craft built to hold the charges could not carry the charges for too long without its fuel running out. So that is why the Nebula Sweep was required. But all that being said, point is, at this moment, as Palpatine believed he was almost about to complete the Sith prophecy, an invisible container full of seismic charges were heading his way, and was very, very close to him. And it was at this exact moment, inside his office, as Sidious prepared to leap towards the Jedi, that his finely tuned senses screamed a warning. A warning that came too late. The impending doom he had sensed all this while was not emanating from the Jedi before him, but from the night sky outside. In that split second, Palpatine understood the magnitude of his oversight. His obsession and sheer focus on the Jedi, his underestimation of their resolve and their capabilities, and his own overconfidence had blinded him to the broader canvas of conflict. As for Yoda, sensing the imminent cataclysm, voiced a grim acknowledgement of the moment's significance. The end, this is not, he declared, a calm acceptance in his voice that belied the chaos about to ensue. He and the other Jedi Masters who had came prepared for this exact scenario prepared themselves, not for battle, but to soon become one with the Force, their lives dedicated to peace and justice, finding an end in the flames of war. So as for how all this came to be, the Jedi, particularly Mace, Shakti, Kit Fisto, and Yoda himself, had made the agonizing decision to employ a method of misdirection against Sidious. A strategy that was both desperate and calculated. This was not a choice made lightly, however. It was born from the realization that confronting Sidious directly, through whatever means, be it with explosives or lightsabers, always had the risk of Sidious escaping, following which he would destroy the Jedi, amass more power, and would take over the Republic. The Jedi knew that. Confronting him directly would have played right into his hands. The Jedi also knew that they would only get one chance to destroy Sidious upon confronting him, and they had to make sure the Sith didn't return, that Sidious was destroyed. And to do that, they thought to rely on Sidious's overconfidence, an absolute belief that he could best the Jedi, and that nothing could stop him, which, as Master Yoda knew, would cause him to lose focus on the larger picture. The utilization of the Nebula Sweep 9, rigged with the seismic charges, would be the real weapon that would end Sidious, while the Jedi themselves would present themselves as a distraction. This was the plan Master Yoda came up with. And it was to discuss this specific plan that Yoda sent Ahsoka off to Mandalore. This is why Ahsoka was concerned for Anakin. She feared that Anakin might also end up with the team of Jedi who went after Palpatine and get himself killed. And although Yoda assured her that Anakin would be in no danger, Ahsoka was still concerned, which is why she contacted him when she found out from Bo-Katan that their plan was about to be enacted. And in the end, the Jedi's plan worked. Sidious, distracted by the presence of the Jedi, had failed to see a bigger threat. A simple oversight, but one that had massive consequences for Sidious. It was a plan that hinged on the element of surprise, exploiting Sidious's oversight and his underestimation of the Jedi's willingness to take drastic measures. In the end, that was his weakness. Also, the Jedi were acutely aware of the potential collateral damage, a burden that weighed heavily on their conscience. However, they rationalized that the loss of life, including their own, paled in comparison to the galaxy-wide devastation the rule of the Sith would inevitably bring. And so, coming back to when Sidious realized what was about to happen, his instincts screamed for survival. He pivoted, aiming for the window, seeking to escape the trap he had unwittingly walked into, or that had walked into him. But as he made his move, the tower just broke through the window. The shockwave from the explosion rippled through the Coruscant night, a brutal punctuation of years of war and conflict that all led to the moment. This act, audacious and desperate, marked a turning point for the galaxy. The Jedi, long seen as guardians of the peace, had been pushed to the brink, their actions in stopping Sidious reflective of the dire circumstances that the galaxy faced. And so, in the days, weeks, and months following this incident, which annihilated the leadership of both the Republic and the Jedi, several things happened in the galaxy. First of all, the attack itself was eventually blamed on some rogue separatist element, and the Mandalorian warriors took great care to make sure that nothing would be linked back to them, to Bo-Katan, or to the Jedi. And so the separatists were blamed, but the separatist leaders, the likes of Newt Gunray, had no idea who did this. So the separatist leadership was quick to denounce this attack, saying that it wasn't them, but no one in the galaxy believed them. The separatists did this to weaken the Republic. That was the general sentiment among the citizens of the Republic and the Holonet. And as for the Jedi, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan, who only found out what the real plan was after it happened, announced before the galaxy that Master Yoda and the other Masters had gone to Palpatine for a simple discussion when the attack occurred, and that the Jedi Order will make sure that those responsible are punished. But the hero of the Clone Wars, Anakin Skywalker, did go on to urge the galaxy that there could have been some rogue extremist element to this attack, and that the Separatist Council may not have wanted it. This argument was not met with much love, especially on the Holonet, but it did help many in the Republic calm down. So in this timeline, the Jedi Order was not destroyed. And as for the clones, only Palpatine could execute Order 66, and it was only he who knew about this, so Palpatine's death assured that Order 66 would not be activated, so the Jedi Order was safe. And soon after, a new Chancellor was elected, and the Clone Wars kept on going, now fully controlled by the Separatist leaders, with Sidious gone. But quickly, the Separatist leaders, feeling that they can't keep the war going on for much longer, especially with their leadership completely gone, decided to negotiate for peace. This was a tough negotiation, but quickly enough, a ceasefire was ordered, and eventually, months later, a peace agreement was.
You say you'll never join the Navy. Never track storms in the Atlantic, or skydive as part of your commute. Joining the Navy sounds crazy. Saying never actually is. Learn why at Navy.com. America's Navy, forged by the sea.
Was entered into, because the galaxy just wanted this war to end, both the Separatist citizens and those of the Republic. And so the war ended. And as of the clones, after the war had ended, the Jedi Council, of which Anakin and Ahsoka were now members, ordered that the inhibitor chips be removed from every single clone. The argument was that the inhibitor chips inhibited the clones' will, and that with the war now over, the clones shouldn't be forced to do anything, and that they should be allowed to live their lives. And so a galaxy-wide operation was put into place to have the inhibitor chips removed. And also, clone production was stopped on Kamino. And as for Anakin, Ahsoka, and Padme, soon after Ahsoka returned from Mandalore, she explained to both Anakin and Obi-Wan that Yoda had instructed her to keep everything a secret, and that this was the only way to ensure that Palpatine was destroyed. And Anakin, of course, understood Ahsoka's position. And with Padme alive and well, the Sith destroyed, and with him now being made one of the leading figures of the Jedi High Council, Anakin was not angry at all. And because of Ahsoka's actions, Anakin had her made a member of the High Council, making Ahsoka the new, youngest member of the Jedi High Council, a title that Anakin previously held. There were those in the Holotube that blamed nepotism for this, but no one really cared. There was peace. And as for Luke and Leia, as the years went by, they grew up on Naboo, far removed from the politics of Coruscant. And despite Anakin being a member of the High Council, Anakin and Padme agreed that Luke and Leia should grow up with their parents. Anakin did, of course, want to make changes to the policy on attachment that the Jedi Order held, and these changes were made, but that took time and Padme did not want to part with her children. And so Luke and Leia grew up in luxury on Naboo, where Anakin instructed them in the ways of the Force. And so in the end, because of the sacrifices of a few Jedi Masters and the collateral damage that resulted from said sacrifice, there was peace in the galaxy, at least for the time being, until Darth George. Okay, we're not doing that again. Anyways, thank you for watching, and if you liked the video, do consider leaving a like and subscribing, and do check out my Patreon if you got the time. A link to it should be in the description. Also, what song do you think would be appropriate for Anakin Skywalker looking across the plains of Naboo at his son, realizing that he finally had peace? I think Midnight City by M83 would be a good choice. What do you think?
But yeah, I already reacted to that one, but yeah. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And again, I'll put Star Wars Quill's channel in the description below, so you can check out the original video for yourself. Anyway, bye for now. And again, don't forget to sub, like, and share. And bye for now. I'll see you guys next time. See ya.